we took a family trip to Disney World, and it was in December, and it was cold. But they were filming Dick Tracy on the Disney World lot. So like I got to see all the sets and cars and stuff like that. Like I was psyched for Dick Tracy. Dick Tracy was cool. What's up, guys? Thanks for checking out this new video. We've got a good one for you today. I'm going through one of the greatest toy lines ever. I know. You're probably like, is he kidding me? This is like Playmates Dick Tracy. No. This is a great toy line. And by the end of this video, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to convince you that this line right here was one of the best toy lines ever made. But not really. But really. No, not really though. But check it out anyway. All right, guys, as I promised, best toy line ever. I can't even say it with a straight face. But it's one that was important to me as a kid. This is my retrospective and my take on Dick Tracy Playmates line from, I believe, 1990. Yeah. So this was a movie put out by Disney. And I remember in 89, we took a family trip to Disney World in December for Christmas time. And at that time, they were filming Dick Tracy on the back lot in Disney World. So I got to see a lot of the sets and like 1920s sort of cars and things like that. So like I was all about Dick Tracy as a kid. I don't know if it started before that trip or after that trip or seeing that, and but I was just immersed in Dick Tracy. So I was so excited when I found that this line was coming out. And it wasn't like, how it is today where you see stuff leak online. Like, I'm trying to think, maybe I saw a commercial. I saw a commercial watching like G.I. Joe or something like that, like for this Playmates Dick Tracy line. So like, again, I was all about it. Now this line by Playmates was 14 figures and 2 vehicles. So I'm gonna go through basically the line and give my thoughts on it because I think it was a great line. It was as cheesy as it is, and it's kind of one of those lines that when you think about as a collector, what lines are easy to get that won't break the bank? And it's like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and Dick Tracy, besides the blank. You can get these figures for a couple bucks. Like I think I got my carded Dick Tracy unpunched for $2 on eBay. But you could easily get this whole line and it'll be, it won't break the bank, like I said, except for this guy, which we'll get into later on. But yeah, I'm going to go through this line because there's really redeeming qualities about this line. So let's get on into it. I'm going to start off with, obviously, the star of the show. This is Dick Tracy right here. Now, again, this was Playmates. So this was on the heels of Turtles. So you had the same sort of articulation, same squat proportions. Now Turtles, it was okay because you were dealing with mutants and weird characters. I know Casey Jones was human, but when you got to Dick Tracy, they just like looked odd. It's like these big old heads and just weird proportions, bow-legged, just weird. But again, it was great. It was Dick Tracy. As a kid, I didn't really care. I wasn't saying like, oh, that articulation's terrible. I was like, no, it's a kid and it's Dick Tracy. But this Dick Tracy right here has a custom-made trench coat because the Dick Tracy figure, let me pull him out, he did not come with the trench coat. He looked just like this. Now, it was weird that Playmates took this turn because they ended up doing the blank figure with a molded trench coat. So it's just odd that they took such a signature aspect of Dick Tracy and didn't put it in the figure. Now, knowing how crazy Disney is with their licenses, it's shocking that they would have allowed Playmates to do this figure without his signature trench coat. Like, you wonder, like, thinking back as a manufacturer and a designer, like, how those conversations went. Like, where were there the fights? Did Disney saying, no, he has to have a trench coat? Playmates pushed back, or vice versa. Like, how did that happen? I mean, he had his hat, but he didn't have his trench coat. So it is interesting how that happened. I mean, it was cool. It's like he came with, a holster and his, his .45 and his billy club, you know, but he looked good. I mean, it looks kind of like Warren Beatty with lipstick on, but, you know, cool artwork on the cards. I had these cool bio cards, literally just like Ninja Turtles. They literally just said, hey, we're going to do the same thing for Dick Tracy as we do with Turtles. Again, 14 figures, has them on the cross sale. Fingerprint points would have been great if they actually did something with them. I wonder if they had something planned. But that's our guy. That's Dick Tracy. Next up was the second and only other hero, or, you know, good guy in the line. That was Sam Ketchum. This is where you start to see some of the weird Playmates things come in. Whereas, like, Sam Ketchum, he's got, like, a chunk taken out of his hat, but it looks like he's got, like, 2 bullet holes through his hat. You know, Playmates with Turtles, they did some of that weird stuff. You'll also see as we get into the other figures, they do really, really weird stuff like that. But, you know, Sam Ketchum, I had him and Dick Tracy as a kid. You know, guy with orange, you know, can't say much more about Sam Ketchum. It was really the villains of this line that really made it awesome. And here's like one of the stars. Actually, probably the one people really wanted the most, and that's Flat Top. Flat Top is kind of the most iconic character in Dick Tracy. I know Big Boy's like, you know, the bad guy leader, but Flat Top, like Flat Top's Flat Top. You know, he just looked weird looking. He's got the crappy looking face, but it's like he's got this Tommy gun. He's got this, you know, bullet bandolier, but then he comes with a noose. Like, of all the things that this Playmates line was going to make them come with, was a noose. Like, again, this is where it got really, really ridiculous, and I don't know how some of this stuff, you know, got by. This one's cool. It's got an original price tag from Children's World for $3.99. Toys have come a long way nowadays. It's like, could you imagine an action figure on a card this big? It'd be $30. But Flat Top, $3.99. So yeah, Flat Top with a noose and a Tommy gun, pretty cool. Next up is probably the second most important bad guy you got. We got Itchy. Itchy also comes with a Tommy gun, comes with a bandolier, grenades, and like a bent pipe. But he's kind of funny. He's got all these scratches on him, almost like he got into a fight with a cat. And I get it, he's itchy, he's scratching all the time, so maybe that's why they did it. But dude's all tattered up. He didn't look that way in the movie. But like looking at, you know, him and the way he looked here, he looks just like he does in the movie. But yeah, Itchy was cool. All right, so next up is the Brow. The Brow was only featured in one scene. In the beginning of Dick Tracy, there's this scene where all these mobsters are around a card game and they're playing before they get, I'm trying to think, either Dick Tracy, you know, comes in on the game and arrests all of them. I forgot how that happened, but it's been a while since I saw it. But the Brow was one of those guys in that card game. There was also this guy, Little Face, which they tried to take a real life actor, but a normal size face, and just make a costume bigger to make it look like he just had a little face, but it ended up just looking like a giant man. So it didn't translate. Oh, that movie did really weird things with the makeup. If you go and like Google like images of behind the scenes, like Al Pacino with his makeup and stuff like that, it was really cool, like seeing some of the odd things they did to make these guys look really cartoony. But the Brow was one of those ones, you know, but again, it's got bullet holes in his hat, some aces in his pocket. It's got a gun, holster, and a knife. You know, pretty tame compared to the rest of the guys. Here's our guy, Big Boy Caprice, played by Al Pacino. You know, again, it's just like he's got bullet holes in his suspenders. It's like, did he get shot? Because he doesn't look like he's shot. But he's got money bags, a gun. You know, but you look at him, that looks like Al Pacino. I wonder if this was Al Pacino's first ever action figure. I think it was. But yeah, this one is, I don't know what store this is from, but it does say $1.99. So, you know, pretty cheap getting Dick Tracy figures back then. Here's one that was during that card game in the beginning. This is Rodent, pretty ugly dude. Again, like Rodent, they put a mouse trap holding his you know, his jacket together, Tommy gun, bandolier. You know, he kind of, you know, I don't remember, I didn't have him as a kid. I don't think I wanted him. I think he was just ugly, you know, so I didn't care for the Rodent. but I got him now. Here's one played by, I think, an Academy Award winner, Dustin Hoffman. This is Mumbles. Mumbles was a big part of the movie because he ended up, like, you know, outing Big Boy at the end when they played, you know, his confession tape back. But this is Mumbles. I had him as a kid. He comes with, you know, a leg iron and gun. But pretty simple. You know, nothing much to him. Here's one more guy from that that card game in the beginning. This is Influence. Influence was typical Playmates at the time. So this is, he's got a spider on his jacket. He's literally got a hypodermic needle. He's got a stethoscope and some sort of pocket watch. But it's just like this weird stuff, like the spider on him was just odd. But again, Playmates did that weird stuff. You look at some of those Turtles figures, they just covered these guys with stuff. It was weird. So let's see who we got next. Oh, Shoulders. Again, part of that card game. I think they did everyone from that card game except Little Face. Probably would have been hard to do. Not much to him. He's got this cool spiked bat, but again, Tommy gun, bandolier, you know, brass knuckles in his pocket. But you know, his face is banged up. Here's another Children's World $3.99 figure. Wonder if they had to discount those figures. This is Prune Face. Prune Face was part of Big Boy's crew when they were trying to take down Dick Tracy, but Prune Face, they make him like this demolitions expert. He comes with TNT, he's got dynamite strapped to him, but he looks all disheveled. Like his shirt's all busted up and open and tattered, his tie's all busted up. But it's like in the movie, he had like a three-piece suit on and a tie and a nice hat on. Like they took these characters that looked really classy and they just like playmated them up, if that's a new saying for me. But yeah, this is a perfect example. Like they took this classy character and just made him kind of cheesy. I guess they figured, well, he looks like an old man, all wrinkled, so we might as well make him cool by getting him some TNT and a tattered shirt. But I don't know. Doesn't translate well now. This figure caused a lot of controversy. This was the Tramp. And I remember, I think it had something to do with, you know, being called the Tramp or something with his file card. But this figure got like recalled or something like that. But like, I think a ton of them had already made it out to the market. So it's like, he's not a rare figure. He's like a couple dollars. But I think there was something where people complained about like, maybe like hobos getting a bad rap or something like that. But yeah, the Tramp got that rap. But again, he's, you know, he looks kind of similar. Like even though he's got like a taped up shoe and a hole in one shoe and a tattered jacket, like that's how he looked in the movie. He was a hobo. He was only in the beginning when Dick Tracy saves the kid from him. But you know, the kid was one that they never actually made. You know, one of the rare, like, or one of the few things they didn't make in this line. But they made the Tramp. And then almost last, we have Lips Manless. I'm trying to remember who, I think Paul Sorvino played him. You think Paul Sorvino, he was in Goodfellas, like, it's a big actor. And it's like he played, they got crazy actors to play in this movie. Warren Beatty probably called on a lot of favors. But Lips Manless ran a club in the movie, and he ended up getting poured concrete over. So they gave him concrete shoes, which he's the only guy that comes with these concrete shoes. That's kind of funny. Now, they didn't get to a play set in this line, but I feel like if they had gotten to a play set, it probably would have been like Big Boy's Warehouse, and it probably would have been like a cement box that you could like, you know, pour over guys. Like that could have been really cool. You know, they didn't have kinetic sand back then, but I wonder what if they could do, like slime was a big thing for figures, but how could you have done like fake concrete being poured over a guy, you know, in a place set like that? I think like if I were a designer back then, a Big Boy Warehouse with, you know, a cement trap would have been cool. And now we get to the cream of the crop here, the one and only blank figure. And this figure took me a long time to acquire. I finally did about a year ago. Actually, probably hasn't been a year ago. I looked for this figure all over. Now this figure, if you've seen the movie, I'm not even going to say spoilers because you all should have seen Dick Tracy by now. You know that the blank was played by Madonna. It was Madonna's character, Breathless Mahoney. She ends up being the blank, which is kind of a letdown in the movie. But this figure, because it was a spoiler, because the mask comes off and there's a Madonna head underneath there, they felt that they didn't want the spoiler of the movie to get out. So they held this figure back. But what happened was, as the lines sort of, didn't do well, they were like, oh man, we're left with all these blank figures. What are we going to do? Got an idea. Let's send them to Canada. So the blank figure was only available in Canada. We don't know how many, but part of me believes that it wasn't like a small amount, but it wasn't a huge amount. I would imagine it was probably like at least 1,000 they made of the blank figure, probably more. But who knows where they all went? Maybe one day we'll hear a story about a warehouse being uncovered with like thousands of blank figures, kind of like that warehouse in Brazil or Mexico that got uncovered with all the mask stuff. Maybe one day, but I hope not, because then it'll make this figure not worth as much because I paid a lot for it. But this eluded me for years. I saw it in 2015 at New York Comic Con, and I should have bought it then because it was a fraction of what I paid for now. But I needed it because I had the whole line, and I needed this figure. It's like the white whale of collecting. Like, you look at some of the rarest figures, like, it's on everyone's top 10 list of rarest figures. You got like Scratch from Turtles, and then you got Blank from Dick Tracy. This figure's super rare. But it's a cool figure. Like, looking at it, it's like, with the trench coat and the mask, like, even if the mask didn't come off, like, this is a cool figure. The blank was awesome. But I remember, like, they showed him on the cross sell, so it's like you knew he existed. So as a kid, it was just like, where's the blank? So every time I would go to the store, I would sift through the figures, not find the blank. Kind of sucked. And it wasn't until later in life that I realized, oh, this is what happened. So it's like you didn't think the blank existed. And it's like, no, it actually did. And then you start seeing it. It's like, wow, I remember like the first time I actually seen one was pretty crazy. And then like to finally get this and like hold it in my hand, I was like, wow, like, and for such an expensive figure to be in such kind of a crap line is kind of funny. It's not like, you think of like the Scratch figure from Turtles. It's like, that's rare, but it's from a great line. It's like the Dick Tracy line is not a regarded line. It's kind of just like a throwaway line. But again, it's one of the rarest figures in that line. The interesting thing is, now that I'm seeing it, oh, they're all 1 point. I thought that the fingerprint points were 2 and the blank was 1, but he's 1. But it would have been cool if, like, what they should have done was made the blank a mail away. And then you mail in the fingerprint points, then you got the blank. That's how they should have done it, instead of trying to do the figure and then not being able to get it done. But what could have been, right? It's like what I wouldn't give to be able to talk to like original designers from back then and be like, what went into this? What was the thought process? Like, how did it go with the blank and stuff like that? You can only speculate, think about this stuff, and look, it's like trying to decipher history, scrolls and ancient things and stuff like that. To me, this is like toy history. So we might never know, but we got it, and that's that. So that's the blank. And then lastly, the line had 2 awesome vehicles. It was pretty much the same vehicle with just slightly different changes to it. You had Big Boy's car and you had the police squad car, and they were great because, like, they were big enough to fit the figures. You couldn't fit them in the back because the back doors didn't open. So it was like you can only just like slide the figures in. They didn't fit well, but when you pull them out, they're like great looking cars. But very, very, very cool. And I feel like, they were on their way to a play set. You got to think 90s toy lines, like late 80s, early 90s toy lines, they all had play sets. Look at Kenner Swamp Thing. Kenner Swamp Thing got to a play set. So I feel like there was probably a play set in the works for the Dick Tracy line. And it's unfortunate that normally we see like the old like Toy Fair catalogs and things like that, like these images leak. Like even Kenner Robin Hood, like we saw that second wave that never got produced. I just wish like we could see what could have been for this Dick Tracy line because I think they were definitely getting ready for a playset. This line was primed for a playset. Especially you look at Playmates, that Turtles line had the Turtle Lair, the Technodrome, and a bunch of like big like vehicles and playsets. So there's no reason why they couldn't have done a playset for Dick Tracy. But again, what could have been. But this is what we're left with, and guys, I think it's a great line. I know I gave it some crap in the beginning. I'm sure you're probably watching this video like, why is he really talking about Dick Tracy? But again, you know, me as, you know, a young kid, 1990, like, you know, 8 years old, like this could have been such a cool line for me then. I remember playing with these figures all the time. So I think it's more nostalgia, it's more important to me for that, but I still look at it, you know, for what it is, and I'm like, it still kind of holds up. There's something really redeeming about it, especially when you can get like really cool custom stuff by people online that, you know, make the trench coats. I forgot who I bought this from, but I was able to buy like a set, so it's like 5 different coats, one for like Big Boy, and I think one for Prune Face, so you can cover up that tattered shirt. But it just shows you, like, you put a trench coat on him, like, that's cool. Like, he looks great. But yeah, I mean, you guys might not like this video. I had fun with this one, and I hope this gives you a little bit of insight into Dick Tracy, and maybe it changes your mind about this line. So again, it's a cheap line. Go out and get it. Good luck finding a blank. But yeah, hopefully I changed some. Even if I did it to one person, I changed your mind and made you get Dick Tracy, then I succeeded. So thank you guys for bearing with me on this video through my retrospective of Playmates Dick Tracy.